Good morning, I am Susan.
And good morning, this is Imelda, reading Sight for Wight News for Friday the 20th of September 2019. On Tuesday the 24th of September, there'll be a coffee morning held at the End of the Line Cafe in Freshwater from 10:30 until 12 noon. Fresh refreshments are available to purchase direct from the cafe. This coffee morning takes place on the last Tuesday of each month. There will not be a coffee morning at Costa in Ryde this month. The swimming group are swimming at the waterside pool in Ryde from 8 p.m. until 8:45 p.m. The pool is closed to the public while the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call Sight for Wight first to notify us of your swimming ability. You need to register with the office at Millbrook House first to be able to swim with the group. And on Wednesday, the 25th of September, the weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House this week from 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. There will also be a low vision drop-in between 10 a.m. and 12 noon. This is a weekly event to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need of an appointment. Thursday the 26th of September, the Thursday social group are meeting at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 until 2 p.m. With the help of a volunteer, the group enjoy a number of activities: crosswords, catching up on news and trivia, knitting and crochet. They are currently making pom-poms to make into a blanket, as well as decorations for the Sight for Wight Christmas tree. This very friendly mixed group also love to chat and enjoy lunch together. Later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group on different topics. If you would like to join the group, then please contact the charity on 522205. And that takes us to Friday the 27th of September. The Striders group will be meeting for a 4.7-mile walk around the Newport area. Lunch is booked for 1 p.m. at the Bargeman's Rest. If you would like to join the Striders group, then please contact the Society on 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk.
And that brings us on to any other news. The Isle of Wight Fellowship for Visually Impaired meet at Bethnal Evangelical Church, Union Street, Newport on Saturday the 28th of September at 3 p.m. The speaker this month, Mr. Robert Wheels. Activities include hymns, quizzes, story reading and a short Christian message, followed by tea. NB. A collection is taken from which donations are made to the Torch Trust for the Blind. Hymn books and scripture in large print and braille are available. For further information, please contact Mel Barnes on 405156. The Sing About session on Wednesday the 2nd of October will be held for this month only at the Newport Methodist Church, Key Street in Newport. The various island groups will be joining for an afternoon of ABBA. Thank you for the music. If you would like to join the Sing About group for this event, please contact Laura on 522205. On the 2nd of October, we will have a guest speaker at the Millbrook House Coffee Morning. We are pleased to welcome Tom McNulty from the Macular Society, who will be joining us at 10:30 to let us know what the Society is up to, pass on any news and updates, and answer any questions you may have about the macular disease and living with sight loss. 2020 Diaries and Calendars. It's time to order your VIP diaries and calendars. Please note that the suppliers of VIP diaries have now imposed a minimum number of orders that we place on your behalf. Therefore, we will place orders on the following dates: 21st of October, the 11th of November and the 25th of November, and then a final order on Wednesday the 3rd of December. Any orders after this date will need to be made directly by members to the diary company. Prices are as follows: a pocket diary A6 with cover, week to view, £5.75. A pocket diary A6 insert only, week to view, £5.30. A midi diary A5, week to view, £7.65. A jumbo A4 diary, week to view, 2 days per page, £21. A desk diary A4, week to view, £9.45. A wall hanging calendar A3, £6.25. A wall hanging dates reminder, £5.75. To place your order, please contact Laura Jasper at members@iwsb.org.uk or call her on 522205.
An audio book group meets at Ryde Library on the second Friday of each month from 11 a.m. for about 1 hour. Their next meeting is on the 11th of October. This book group is not run by Sight for Wight, so if you would like further information about joining the group, please contact Joe Dodd on 823 825. This group is also looking for a facilitator for the group, so if you know someone who could help, please contact Joe. A possible new audio book group, Alistair has run the Freshwater Library audio book group for many years and is now looking to start a new one at Sandown Library. If you would be interested in joining the group, please contact Sandown Library on 402748 with your name and contact details, and they will pass on your details to Alistair. Days and times to be arranged once we have an idea of interest. Please note that this group is not run by Sight for Wight. We are just advertising on Alistair's behalf. Sight for Wight has the following donated second-hand items for sale. All items are in working order and are sold as seen. An RNIB Pen Friend version 1 with instructions and labels for £25. Cobalt Speechmaster Talking Microwave 2016 model in good condition, £80. Daylight standing floor lamp on wheels, so able to move around, good use condition, £20. Enhanced Vision Smart Reader with control headsight, good use condition, £300. If you would like to view or purchase any of these items, please contact Laura Jasper, members@iwsb.org.uk, or phone the charity on 522205. And raffle tickets are now available for our annual raffle, which will be drawn on the 31st of October. The tickets are £1 each and come in a book of 5 tickets. Please contact Sight for Wight on 522205 or email enquiries@iwsb.org.uk if you would like to purchase tickets.
Visit to the Isle of Wight Distillery on Monday the 11th of November. Meet first at 10:30 at the Old Barracks Tea Room in Puckpool Park, Ryde, followed by a talk and tasting at 12 noon for approximately 45 minutes to 1 hour at the Isle of Wight Distillery, Pondwell Road, Ryde. No charge for the talk or tasting. Minibus transport may be available depending on the location and will cost £2. Closing date for applications is Friday the 25th of October. For further details or to book your place, please contact Laura on 522205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk. Murder Mystery Night. Join us for an evening of murder and mystery at Millbrook House on Thursday the 31st of October at 6:30 p.m. Ticket prices is £10, which includes a simple 2-course supper, glass of wine, coffee and mince. We will be drawing our annual summer raffle, so there's still a chance to buy a ticket and be in with a chance of winning some great prizes, including a first prize of £100 cash. Parking available via Castle Road. For booking inquiries, please contact Site for Wight on 522205 or email fundraising@iwsb.org.uk. Story Writing Competition 2019. Yes, it's back! This year's theme is the sound of Christmas. Entry forms are available from Waterstones, Newport, or downloadable from our website www.iwsb.org.uk. This year's celebrity readers are Endala Mengele, Kate Weston, Melvin Hayes, and new to this year's lineup, Michael Maloney, a versatile actor from film, television and audio dramas. We hope that you will support our competition and look forward to your entries. Closing date is Friday the 8th of November. If you would like information, then please contact Chris on 522205 or email fundraising@iwsb.org.uk.
And this week in Touch. Tribunal finds eye surgeon put money before patients. A tribunal this week may hand down sanctions to an eye surgeon, saying he put money before patients, and the British blind sailors victorious again at the World Championship. The Medical Practitioners Tribunal has found Bobby Carisbrooke put his own financial interests above the interests of his visually impaired patients. Carisbrooke, as medical director at the London Eye Hospital, now under different management, implanting a new type of lens to patients who have macular degeneration. The tribunal found patients did not receive enough information on the risks prior to having the procedure. Kathy Yelf, CEO of the Macular Society, which gave evidence to the tribunal from 20 cases, gives her reaction to the tribunal's verdict and what it means in the uncharted territory of treatments for macular degeneration. Chris Albert is a member of the very successful blind sailing team, which has come away from a regatta in Canada with the World Champion Trophy. He describes why blind sailing gives him some of the freedom back that he lost when he lost his sight.
Talking newspaper County Press, Friday the 20th of September 2019. Headlines are: Island Line on track, rail investment welcomed, and the light rail group not impressed. Island Line on track. 26 million cash boost for new trains and infrastructure. The future of the Isle of Wight Railway has been secured by a 26 million investment. The money, almost entirely provided by the Department for Transport, will fund more modern trains, improvements to the track, and a new passing loop at Brading, which will help deliver a half-hourly service to Ryde Pier and Cross Solent routes. The trains will replace the current Class 483 fleet, which were built for the London Underground in 1938 and have been carrying passengers on Island Line since 1989. Government Rail Minister Chris Heaton-Harris said, "That means an incredible 81 years of service for some of the oldest trains on our network, but they cannot be kept going forever." The new stock will also be former tube trains, but fully refurbished with more capacity, better accessibility, passenger information systems, and Wi-Fi. The first carriages are expected to arrive in early summer 2020, with track improvements to follow in the winter. The new Brading station infrastructure will enable a more regular service aimed at making rail a more attractive and sustainable option. The news follows an announcement earlier this year by Network Rail to invest millions of pounds into Ryde Pier, where Isle of Wight trains connect with services to Portsmouth. The announcement of significant investment into the island railways and trains were given a widespread welcome on Monday. Keep Island Line, a franchise founding member David Pugh said, "The money will go to upgraded rolling stock. We currently have 1930s tube stock and we are moving forward to the 1970s, but fully refurbished retro, good as new. It's been a long slog with a lot of people involved, challenging the government along the way." Ryde Pier is going to be subject to separate investment from Network Rail to the tune of tens of millions of pounds. It's the only railway in the country, a public railway, that runs up a pier, so some unique challenges. The plan is to invest significantly so it fits for purpose for another 60 years. Adrian Shooter, Chief Executive of Viva Rail, tasked with constructing the new stock, said, "What we're actually providing is a new train. Yes, we're using the aluminium body shell from the D78 stock from London Underground, but every single thing inside will be brand new. The first one is due to be here next summer." Island MP Bob Seeley said, "It's incredibly good news in practical terms. It means new trains, a better ride and more regular service. I also want a viability study in the next few years into extending the railway into Ventnor. I want to see what the options are about having a rail route of some kind from Ryde through to Newport." Government Rail Minister Chris Heaton-Harris visited the island for the announcement and experienced firsthand the rickety train journey from Ryde Pier to Brading. He said, "While it might be quaint to get on the older rolling stock, I think in modern day Britain other things are expected. This will be good for commuters going to work, and it's fantastic for tourists coming to the other way." Wightlink welcomed the news, which will see improved connectivity with Wightlink's Fastcat service to Portsmouth. The Solent Local Enterprise Partnership agreed and said the funding represented a major boost to connectivity for the island. The Isle of Wight Steam Railway welcomed the investment, but said it was unlikely to fulfil its ambition to return steam-hauled trains to Ryde within the terms of the current South Western Railway franchise. It said all options had been examined, but regularity, concerns and the cost involved made the project unsustainable. Isle of Wight Council leader, Councillor Dave Stewart, said, "It's a fantastic result. This line is now being sustained and people will be able to commute properly in trains that are more suitable. It is great news for the island."
And the second headline news is also about rail. Light Rail Group not impressed. The announcement was met with criticism from Light Rail, Isle of Wight, LRIW, which called it a shameful day. A spokesperson said, "It is abysmal in this day and age that the Department for Transport can see no further than heavy rail, and so another branch line is to continue with the expensive must-do and mend policy, costing this line more than £3.5 million a year." In 2017, LRIW put forward proposals to the Isle of Wight Council that Island Line be upgraded to a modern, greener, more frequent and easily extendable new light rail system. The proposal was for a 15-minute service using 6 new lightweight trains, with a plan to relink towns such as Newport and Cowes.
Teens' house party descends into chaos. A party at a barn in Wellow descended into chaos when up to 200 teenagers turned up. Multiple emergency service vehicles attended the scene and 3 teenagers were arrested. The incident happened last Friday night in the grounds of a property at Main Road when a teenage boy held a party. One partygoer said everyone was talking about it and the number 7 bus to Wellow was packed with young people, so it was obvious something was going on. I reckon there were 150 to 200 people there, aged about 15 to 18. The music was drum and bass, and at first it was really good fun. Some people started fighting and they stopped the music and everyone started saying the police were coming. The people got us all out on the main road and started pepper spraying people. A lot of people were really drunk. The ambulance service received 4 999 calls at around 10:30 p.m. and dispatched an officer and 2 ambulances to the scene. Several intoxicated youths were treated at the scene by paramedics. 2 were taken by ambulance to A&E, one with a cut to his head. 2 of the teenagers were arrested on suspicion of assaulting a police officer and 1 on suspicion of violent disorder and taken into custody. A police spokesman said, "We were called following reports of an unexpectedly large number of people attending a party. Officers attended the scene and remained there until the incident, which was contained to one address, was resolved. A 16-year-old boy suffered a cut to his head and was taken to St Mary's Hospital. A 17-year-old boy was arrested on suspicion of violent disorder and obstructing a constable of their duty. An 18-year-old boy was given a conditional caution for being drunk and disorderly in public. A 17-year-old boy and a 17-year-old girl were arrested on suspicion of assaulting a police officer. Southern Vectors issued a warning that buses were unable to serve the area owing to police activity blocking the road.
Safety concerns after school hours changed. Heavy traffic outside schools in Carisbrooke has caused safety concerns, with one school claiming it was left in the dark over changes to school hours. Carisbrooke Primary School said it was left out of a consultation by the other two Wellington Road schools, Christ the King and Carisbrooke colleges. After the secondary schools changed their hours, all three schools now close within a 5-minute window between 3:10 and 3:15 p.m, leaving more than 2,530 pupils aged between 5 and 18 to converge outside at the end of the day. Parents have raised concerns about the behaviour of older children around the younger ones. Carisbrooke College head teacher Matthew Parr Berman said, "It was always a potential concern. We have increased our staff duties at the end of the day, and I went to speak to parents and look at the situation. I didn't see any bad behaviour, but it was very busy." Councillor Paul Brading, Isle of Wight Council Cabinet Member for Children's Services and Education, said, "We are concerned about it, but there are more staff on duty to help. This is a short-term problem, as we believe once the Christ the King College building is complete, the problem will stop. But if this is a long-term problem, we will look at a plan B." A Christ the King spokesperson said its building work should be completed by Easter. Interim Executive Principal Matt Quinn said the college had implemented measures to address the situation, including staggered departure times and using an overflow car park. In a letter to parents, Carisbrooke's primary head of school, Lloyd Watkins, said, "The decision made by the other schools to change their hours was potentially dangerous, and the primary school had not been consulted." He said, "This will result in a much busier and more congested leaving time, and potentially making the end of the day more difficult and dangerous to negotiate for parents and children. We agree with any parents who are disappointed and would actively encourage as many as possible to contact the schools to complain. A strong parent's voice would add considerable weight to the formal letters of complaint already sent. The primary school is now considering closing at 3 p.m. to avoid the rush when the others close at 3:15, given the lack of response or responsibility the colleges have shown.
Blue Light teams escape island for Brainy Bunch. 3 teams from the emergency services escaped the island, with the aim of travelling as far as possible in 50 hours without spending money. Teams from police, ambulance and fire service competed in the Blue Light Breakout Challenge, raising money for the Wight Brainy Bunch. The teams consisted of 2 off-duty personnel from each service, all of who gave their time freely to take part in the challenge, to support Ryde firefighter Mark Grimes, who founded the charity with his wife Catherine after he was diagnosed with a brain tumour in 2015. The teams left Newport on Thursday, with Team Fire duo Mark and Ross Morecambe crowned winners on Saturday, having travelled 1,760 miles to Tenerife. There were emotional scenes at the conclusion of the challenge, with the victorious team finishing in the restaurant where Mark endured his first seizure in 2014, having been diverted from their original route due to bad weather in Spain, conditions which scuppered prospective treks towards Gibraltar and Morocco. Tom Ramsey and Ian Lane of Team Police finished second, clocking up an impressive 1,464 miles, which took them to Greece, close to the Turkish border. Team Ambulance pair Lindsay Groves and Alistair Hay made it to the Greek island of Thassos, having found themselves on the same plane as Team Police on their departure from Gatwick, although their final destination was Kavala in northern Greece, just shy of 1,400 miles from their starting point. The event is estimated to have raised around £5,000 and was supported by Novum Law, Mayher Ross and DDC Electronics, along with other island businesses. Please, people can still donate £5 by texting FIRIIOW, POLICEIOW or AMBIOW to 70085.
Call to halt St Mary's Roundabout scheme. Calls have been made for an immediate halt to the St Mary's Roundabout scheme. At this month's Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council meeting, councillors voted overwhelmingly in favour of asking the Isle of Wight Council to halt the works. Separately, a group of Isle of Wight councillors have called for the works to be postponed until after the traffic problems at Coppings Bridge have been dealt with. An extraordinary full council meeting will be held on Wednesday. The roundabout is judged to be scrapped and replaced with traffic light conjunctions as part of a wider project to remodel the road layout from Asda to Camp Hill, funded by an £9.6 million government grant, aimed at improving traffic flow and reducing congestion in Newport. Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council Chair, Councillor Julia Jones-Evans, said the Parish Council had twice requested a briefing on the scheme to be held at a public meeting to ensure councillors, businesses and residents were fully informed. She said both requests were turned down. Instead, councillors were offered a private briefing with Highways Contractor Island Roads, a response the Parish Council felt was inadequate. Vice Chair Councillor Matthew Price said other traffic schemes should be completed first to tackle unacceptable levels of congestion in Newport, and said the Parish Council had sent a clear message voicing its overwhelming opposition. Councillor Jones-Evans said the new St Mary's Roundabout was fundamentally different from the one consulted on a year ago and should have been resubmitted for public scrutiny. It's the wrong scheme at the wrong time, and it's going to cause massive disruption, she said. An Isle of Wight Council spokesperson said other schemes, such as the new arrangement at St George's Way, have already been implemented, while others which will follow include the link between Coppins Bridge and the Matalan Roundabout, are still being planned. Collectively, they will transform the flow of traffic. We have made changes in response to suggestions made during the public consultation, and there has been an independent review to be absolutely certain it is the best possible approach.
Becky walking and talking after crash. Bridlesford car crash victim Becky Wall continues to recover but remains confused, as if she has the mental age of a child, her family have said. Becky, 28, was airlifted to Southampton and left in a coma after her car was involved in a hit-and-run crash at Bridlesford Road near Wootton on June the 27th. The driver of the other car, a BMW, fled the scene. 3 months on, Becky is walking, talking and beginning to show glimpses of her former self, although her family said she struggles with confusions and short-term memory loss. Her family, who have raised more than £12,000 to support Becky and her daughter, Leanna, shared an update on Facebook. They said Becky was finally had the pelvic frame removed, which has led to her movement and physical rehabilitation coming on leaps and bounds. While she may tire quickly, Becky has been walking, although she's a little wobbly at times, and has complete movement of her arms and legs, although her left side is slightly weaker. Becky doesn't like physio too much, but enjoys walking in the garden. She can hold a conversation, but it seems as though she has the mental age of a 10-year-old. We are told this is normal. Becky's memory is still all over the place. She gets confused very easily and has almost no short-term memory. If you visit her, you could come back 15 minutes later and she would be surprised and happy to see you. Doctors had initially planned to refer Becky to Oxford or London for rehabilitation, but due to her progress, she has been put on a waiting list for less intensive rehabilitation. The family have asked everyone and thanked everyone who has supported them over the past 3 months. On Saturday, October the 5th, a fundraising quiz night will be held at the Stag Inn, Newport. Benjamin Entwistle, 31, of Westlake Avenue Lake, has been charged with several offences in relation to the crash. Court proceedings have been temporarily postponed while further inquiries are carried out.
New owner at Butchers. E. Downer's Butchers in Newport, which earlier this month announced it was to close after 84 years, will reopen, often open after all. It will be taken over by fellow island butchers W. Woodford and Sons. After news of another small business disappearing from the high street, disappointed islanders, Bembridge-based Woodfords, founded in 1903, has stepped in to run Downers at St James's Street. Woodford said the name stood for high-quality local produce from a reputable family-run supplier. Downer's current owner, Greg Downer, said he was planning to hang up his apron due to ill health. Graham Hawkins, owner of W. Woodford and Sons, said, "We were shocked and saddened at the announcement of the closure of this popular store and immediately saw an opportunity for us to continue the supply of quality meat and local produce to Newport. We look forward to serving existing customers and welcoming new members of the local community into the shop."
Newport and Ryde are to benefit from hundreds of thousands of pounds to regenerate the town centres. The towns both won shares of the government's 44 million High Streets Heritage Action Zone Fund. In Newport, supported by local shops and businesses, a partnership of Newport and Parish Council, the Isle of Wight Council and Newport Business Association successfully secured £700,000 from the Historic England. Alongside contributions from partners, including the Isle of Wight Council, this goes towards a total of 1.4 million for Newport. Ryde Business Association, RBA, and Ryde Town Council had similar success with a grant for £480,000, which, alongside partner funds, will contribute towards a total of £960,000 to be spent on Ryde. The towns can now develop a 4-year programme of physical improvements, community engagement and cultural activities. The final programme of work could include supporting local retail and industry through shopfront grants, improvements to the layout of the town centres, and work such as arts, sculpture, and working with schools and community organisations. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, Chair of Newport and Carisbrooke Parish Council, said, We are so excited to be chosen by Historic England for this fund, recognising the huge importance of Newport's heritage and the value we place on our historic county town. We have strong partnership working in Newport, and this funding is really important step forward towards a genuine revival of our town centre. Zoe Thompson, Chair of RBA and Regeneration Work Group, said, "It is fantastic news to have additional money to improve Ryde. For everyone who lives, works and visits here, it is very exciting."
NHS Dementia Ward closed. The Shackleton Dementia Ward will close indefinitely, just 3 months after reopening following a $200,000 refurbishment. The St Mary's Hospital Ward will not reopen as a service for older people after the Care Quality Commission, CQC, raised concerns about the standard of care provided to patients the Isle of Wight National Health Service Trust has confirmed. Instead, patients will be cared for in the community. However, the new community service has yet to be set up, which means patients who need specialist dementia care will be sent to mainland hospitals in the meantime. Shackleton was closed in August due to staff shortages. The Trust said at the time it did not have enough suitably experienced staff to care for patients. It had only reopened in June after it was refurbished with new furniture and facilities to make it more homely and welcoming for patients. Prior to that, the ward was closed in April after it was deemed unfit for purpose. The CQC has raised it inadequate with other trust services. During the closure, patients were sent to mainline hospitals. The trust said the ward would be used again in the future, but it did not know in what capacity. A spokesperson said, "This ward won't reopen. The new community service will replace it permanently." The CQC report, published after the ward was closed to admissions, does raise concern about the quality of care provided, and this was an important part of the decision not to reopen the ward. CQC inspectors raised concern about the quality of care and lack of clinical managerial support. They also found confidential information was not kept safe. The Trust Board has agreed to set up a new service supporting older people in their homes, or nursing and care homes, rather than on a hospital ward. Dr. Leslie Stevens, the Trust's Director of Mental Health and Learning Disabilities, said, "We've been working with our clinical commissioners and have agreed that Shackleton Ward will remain closed indefinitely because of a shortage of staff. The community-based service will be better for those patients needing support, their families and the wider community. Creating this new service fits with the priorities set out in the Mental Health Blueprint and the Isle of Wight Health and Care Plan. Both show that to improve mental health services, we must change our model of care to be more community-based." So with that, folks, I say to you, have a lovely weekend. The weather looks as if it's going to remain well. And it's goodbye from Imelda.
And goodbye from Susan.
I'm Stephen.
Hello, I'm Jan.
And we'll be reading the letters, features and what's on section of the County Press this week, starting with a letter from Den Clare of Shanklin, headlined "Classic Cars Were a Triumph." Once again, for the 18th year, we were treated to the Isle of Wight Classic Car Show last weekend. All monies went to charity, and there was a spectacular turnout, both cars and public. Venues at Newport and Ryde were thronged with activity, blessed also by perfect weather. There was a superb selection of vehicles and a lovely atmosphere throughout. It was a great escape from politics and some of the depressing news we are forever bombarded with. Also, we were very fortunate to have a visit from Graham Cole, who played PC's Stamp for 25 years in The Bill, my favourite programme. He is a really lovely character and gave time to anyone who wanted for photos, autographs or whatever, also having a meet and greet show on the Saturday evening. A true star who does a lot for charity and people's well-being. A great weekend, and in the words of the organiser Vic Gallucci, next year will be bigger and better. I'm not sure how he can possibly improve this great show.
Another letter from Brian Ash of East Cowes. With most things in life, I am fairly laid back, but recent events have stirred me into voicing my thoughts. Why is it East Cowes gets dumped on at every possible turn? We are islanders too, and need to be treated the same as any other resident. If it is not Red Funnel demolishing our town for its own financial interests, it seems the Isle of Wight Council is determined to allow building on every available plot of land with no regard to the struggling infrastructure. We are the only town of significant size that has one single road access. The other possible outlet is a very failed white elephant of a floating bridge, grounded at time of writing. Most of our teenage students need to cross the river twice a day in all winds and weather to attend Cowes Enterprise College. Where else would this happen? Our seafront is a disgrace, with a landslip closing part of it for years now, with no prospect of it being cleared. Where is the employment coming from for all these new residents? No wonder all our youngsters are leaving the island to seek better future elsewhere. I ask, does the leader of the council have these issues in getting to and from where he lives? It seems the council can do what it wishes without any consideration, common sense, or respect to us lowly people who are expected to put up and shut up. There is talk of a bridge over the River Medina. It sounds as though it will, if it happens, be at the Newport end. With respect, Cowes to East Cowes is in desperate need of one, and would benefit all island drivers to have one at each end of the river. This would be a far better way to spend traffic improvement money on instead of the not necessary St Mary's Roundabout to traffic light show.
And now a letter from the Reverend Howard Cunnington of Sandown headlined, "It's been a pleasure, Isle of Wight. I would like to convey through your pages my deepest thanks to all those on the island whom my wife and I had the pleasure of knowing over the past 23 years. This week we are leaving for pastures new in the West Country. I was vicar of Sandown for 8 years and governor of 2 primary schools. I shared with many islanders crucial moments in their lives, both happy and sad, and was privileged to witness courage and faith in equal measure. I've also taught in 3 island secondary schools, and it's been a joy to see the positive and energetic way many young people approach life in often demanding circumstances. As a family, we will always hold the island dear in our hearts, and leaving is hard. But we are grateful for all we have learned here and the people we have known. Sadly, we cannot say goodbye to you all, but this is the best way we can think of saying a final thank you and farewell."
And from J. Gibbons of Ryde. The county press dated 13th of September included the Education Choices pamphlet, and on its cover I read, "A Guide to Provision for All Ages." So I had a quick browse, but found nothing for the likes of me. However, There's always something of interest to be found, and on page 4 we find, as a parent, it is your responsibility to make sure your child attends school regularly. So homeschooling has been abolished then. There is no reference to it. I often wonder why parents taking children out of school do not point out the educational value of their activities, including physical education such as swimming.
And now an article by the leader of the Isle of Wight Councillor, Councillor Dave Stewart, headlined Improving the Island's Infrastructure. One of the challenges we face is the need to improve our infrastructure to help cope with the needs of our community. We know we want the island to be a great place to grow up, live, work and visit, but if we don't deal with our infrastructure needs in the process, then this vision will not be realised. Improving our rail and road network, designing and building a bridge across the Medina, and responding to the impact of a landslip at Undercliff Drive are intended to respond to these needs. This week, I welcomed the decision by the Department for Transport to invest millions into Island Line. The announcement followed a long and detailed process involving South Western Railway, the Solent Local Enterprise Partnership, the Isle of Wight Council, and MP Bob Seeley. Islanders can now look forward to new electric trains, major infrastructure improvements and track upgrades, including a passing loop at Brading, enabling the synchronisation of services with the ferries, all of which supports our desire for sustainable and environmentally friendly contribution to our connectivity. On our roads, we are working hard to improve traffic flows through towns and villages. In our county town, we are bringing forward a package of schemes to reduce congestion because gridlock creates its own frustrations. We've already improved junctions at St George's Way and Shide, and we are about to start work at St Mary's Roundabout to future-proof this very busy junction and leave us better placed to unlock other regeneration schemes in this area. Other schemes will follow in the next 3 to 5 years, including the link between Coppins Bridge and the Matalan Roundabout. Solutions are out there, but they all come at a cost. Yet if we don't bite the bullet and address them, they will hold the island back now and in the future. So over the coming months, you will see a range of initiatives and announcements to improve our infrastructure for the good of the community.
And there is a call to ditch the floaty. A councillor has called for the Cowes floating bridge to be sent back. It is the latest instalment in the saga, after the service was suspended for several days last week to fix the prow hinge at the West End, which previously caused problems in June. A foot passenger replacement service was put in place. Floating Bridge number 6 was commissioned to be built in 2016 by Welsh boat builder Mainstay Marine for £3.2 million. Its maiden voyage was in May 2017, before it was taken out of action 2 days later. In November 2018, Isle of Wight Council figures showed the cost of the vessel and replacement services had spiralled to more than 6.4 million. East Cowes councillor Carl Love has called for the vessel to be sent back and a replacement ordered. He said, "The floating bridge is an embarrassment to our people and council leadership. This has been a fiasco and a failure from the beginning, costing taxpayers millions of pounds extra to simply keep it running. One cannot comprehend the position taken by councillors Ian Ward and Dave Stewart, who have consistently stated it is a good, reliable service. The council has been approached for a comment."
And now the Wight Memories column, which is headlined BN Islander Restored to Former Glory, and this is an article by Bob Wealthy. The historic BN Islander GAVCN aircraft is the third BN2 Islander produced at Bembridge Airport and the oldest one of its type in existence. Over 50 years ago, the GAVCN was under construction in the original hangar at Bembridge Airport, alongside what is now the Propeller Inn. Islander GAVCN was first flown from Bembridge Airport on April the 24th, 1967, and a month later it appeared at the Paris Air Show. On August the 18th, 1967, the Islander was awarded its Passenger Transport Certificate of Airworthiness, and the aircraft entered service with Origny Air Services based in Guernsey on March the 1st, 1968. After 32 years in service in the UK and later in the Caribbean region, the GAVCN ended up in a semi-derelict state at Isla Grande Airport in Puerto Rico. Thanks to the efforts of BN historians and the sponsorship of Peter Graham's company Airstream International, the Islander was brought back home in early 2000, with the intention of having it restored to flight. This did not work out as planned, however, and by 2009 the dismantled remains were in open storage at BN's Bembridge site, deemed at risk. With help from Bembridge Heritage Society and local people, the Britain Norman Aircraft Preservation Society, BNAPS, took charge of the remains and organised its transport to a small workshop near Bembridge Harbour in July 2010. Volunteers were recruited to form the restoration team to rebuild the Islander to serve as a high-quality static exhibit, with restoration work commencing in 2011. After successfully rebuilding the fuselage, by October 2015, it was clear that larger premises were needed to complete the work of rebuilding the wing. In March 2016, the project moved to a large storage facility at the Brickfields site near Ryde, where the restoration work made steady progress, and by the end of May this year, the restoration work had reached the final assembly stage. The critical wing lift operation was completed successfully, and the wing and fuselage were then positioned for joining. The aircraft was soon on its wheels, and the various stages of final assembly progressed. The next few months will see the Islander emerge looking much as it did some 51 years ago, when it entered service with Origny Air Services in 1968. Tomorrow, that would be Saturday, BNAPS is holding a free workshop open day at the Brickfields site near Ryde from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Visitors will be able to take a closer look at the restored Islander GAVCN, now undergoing its final assembly. There will be a video running detailing the history of the restoration project and an opportunity to try out Desktop Islander Flight Simulator. Tea, coffee and cake will be available at no charge, and there will also be BNAPS merchandise on sale. The project has received help from industry and local businesses, donations from BNAPS supporters clubs members, as well as individual donations and grants from the Isle of Wight High Sheriff's Trust, the Transport Trust, Wight Aid and the Daisy Rich Trust. The restoration of Islander GAVCN has only been possible through the continued and dedicated efforts of our restoration team of volunteers. The work has progressed well, and BNAPS is planning for an official unveiling of the restored aircraft in late 2019, early 2020, when it will be seen in the colours of Origny Air Service, as it was 50 years ago. The next challenge is to secure an appropriate place on the Isle of Wight for the restored Islander to go on public display as an historic part of the island's aviation history. For more information on BNAPS, you can email bob@bnaps.org.uk or call 01329 315 561.
And we go on to My View, a regular column where a panel of columnists take it in turn to give their take on life as it is played out on the Isle of Wight. And this is by Rebecca Rankarani. The tourist season turns. On the devil that is social media, There was a recent post by an islander in an Isle of Wight community group saying how lovely it was that the summer season was drawing to a close and the beaches were empty again. I think the vast majority of people reading this post knew exactly what he meant. As someone said, it's a bit like having close family or friends to stay. You have a lovely time with them, but when they leave, you breathe a sigh of relief and put your feet up, revelling in the peace and quiet. But a few people took umbrage. Thanks a lot for making us tourists feel so welcome. Not. And you love taking our money though, don't you? I thought, hang on, no one is saying we don't like tourists. Summer is a great time on the island, mainly because of our tourist industry. We have many cool events, festivals, scooter rallies, fetes, cycle races, sailing regattas, live entertainment galore, carnivals. Admittedly, this all comes at a price, with congestion, parking issues, noise and crowds. But there was always cons to everything, and I think we as an island gain enormous positives from being a tourist destination. Many islanders work extraordinarily hard to make sure our visitors have a great time. Tourists breathe life into our island and our economy and help keep us going from year to year, motivating more and more people to dream up attractions, open great restaurants, run vibrant pubs, open quirky shops, design boutique hotels, bed and breakfasts, run gigs, all of which makes our island an even more desirable place, not just to visit, but to live. It's like the seasons of the year. In summer, we all revel in the long days, the better weather, the beach, ice cream and sandy chips. Then comes autumn, when most of the tourists leave. The nights draw in, the trees put on a beautiful show before shedding their leaves, and we begin to hunker down. Then comes winter, for many the most miserable season of the year, when we hibernate, eat too much, don't shave our legs, wear unflattering clothes because they're warm, but love Downton Abbey, stew and dumplings, roast dinners, mince pies and mulled wine. And when spring comes at last, we venture out, blinking, marvelling at the trees beginning to bud. The days start to get longer, flowers appear, there's birdsong on steroids as they desperately try to attract a mate. Then here comes summer. The change of the seasons revitalises and refreshes us all. If it was permanent summer, how would we appreciate the crisp frosts of winter and snuggly jumpers? If it was permanent winter, how would we feel the sun's warmth and play outside like we do? It's all about seeing the good and balance.
And now a selection of what's on items, starting with news that the Isle of Wight Indoor Bowls Club at Breeding Road in Ryde behind Stiddleston's is having an open day on Sunday the 29th of September. That's from 10:30am to 3pm. All ages are welcome from young to old, including bowlers or those thinking of taking up the game. Try out the game with the help of a coach or just come in for a friendly chat. That's at Bowlswear Direct from 10:30am to 1:30pm. The website is www.iwibc.org.uk and you can telephone for more information on 01983 564 336.
As part of the Age-Friendly Island project, community navigator Rachel Smith will hold a drop-in session at Cowes Library on Tuesday 11 a.m. till noon. Find out about social activities in the area for people aged 50 plus.
And news of the Jack-Up Festival, bringing some festive fizz. Organisers of the popular Jack-Up the Summer Festival are staging some Christmas events. The Jack-Up Christmas party nights will satisfy 80s aficionados and lovers of 90s dance groove. The cheese factor has been ramped up for the 80s night on Saturday, November the 23rd, known as the Fizz. Formerly known as Bucks Fizz, take to the stage to perform a live set crammed full of their greatest hits. Bucks Fizz became one of the UK's biggest pop acts after winning the Eurovision Song Contest in 1981, with their famous skirt-ripping dance routine to Making Your Mind Up. More than 30 years on, three of the originals, Cheryl Baker, Jay Aston and Mike Nolan, will appear on the Isle of Wight. On Friday, November the 22nd, they'll feature a mix of dance songs from the 90s, courtesy of DJ and performer Dario G, best known for the 1997 hit Sunshine, which reached number 2 in the UK singles chart. He will perform live with dance band Urban Cookie Collective, remembered for their 1993 hit single The Key, The Secret. Both nights will be held at Lower Hyde in Shanklin, complete with bespoke photo booth, bar and more than 1,000 glow sticks. There will be DJ sets with 80s and 90s party classics and guilty pleasures until 1 a.m. Event manager Sarah Moss said, "Our loyal Jack-Up followers will come along with the promise you will sing your heart out and dance your socks off. So get your fancy dress ready and prepare for not one but two of the best parties of the year." Doors open 8 p.m. Tickets are available from jackupchristmas.gigantic.com or from Lower Hyde reception, and that's for over 18s only.
An art course run by the Workers' Education Association will be held at the Parkside Pavilion, East Cowes. The 10-week colourist painting course starts on Tuesday 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and costs £117. For further details or to book a place, call 0300 303 3464 or visit wea.org.uk.
And now a selection of forthcoming events at the Medina Theatre, starting with news of Believe, the Share Songbook, which is on Friday the 27th of September at 7:30 p.m, tickets from £23. Then the Isle of Wight Cantata Choir, which is on Saturday 5th of October at 7:30 p.m, with tickets for £15 or £7 for under 18s. And then Lost Voice Guy, the comedian Lee Ridley, who's on Sunday the 6th of October, starting 7:30 p.m, tickets £16. And then Manilow, a Barry Manilow tribute, on Thursday the 10th of October at 7:30 p.m, tickets costing £19. And then Rock for Heroes, which is on Friday the 11th of October at 7:30 p.m, tickets are £19. Griff Rhys-Jones bringing his All Over the Place tour to the Medina Theatre on Sunday the 27th of October, again starts at 7:30 p.m, with tickets from £19. Then the Dream Boys are playing on Saturday 2nd November, again starting 7:30 p.m, tickets from £25.50, and that one's for over 18s only. And then a tribute band, Think Floyd, playing The Wall, that's on Saturday 9th of November at 7:30 p.m, tickets £23.50. And then Steve Parish is bringing his Mad Tour from his autobiography The Parish Times, which tracks his amazing journey over the last 4 decades through a roller coaster ride of emotions, and that's on Sunday the 10th of November, again at 7:30 p.m, with tickets costing £20. And to obtain tickets for that, you can telephone 01983 823 880 or visit the website www.medinatheatre.co.uk.
And Cowes entrepreneur Maddie Dobson will talk about the use of colour in art, fashion and interior design at the RNLI Coffee Morning on Wednesday at the Royal Ocean Racing Club, Cowes. Entry is £5 on the door to include coffee and cake. And a free coffee and chat morning will be held on Thursday in the garden room at All Saints Church, Gurnard, 10:30 a.m. to noon. Come along on your own or with a friend and enjoy the company of others. Also, the St Mark's Tuesday discussion group meets at Wootton Church on Tuesday, 10:30 a.m. to noon. And also a Sing About, the music therapy group, meets on Thursday at 2 p.m. at St James's Church, East Cowes.
Okay, and now news of an indie shorts feature in a mini film festival, and that's on Monday and Wednesday. Ventnor Film Society will show the Lebanese drama Capernaum, which is a certificate 15, at 7:30 p.m. On Tuesday, the club will screen a true story, The Keeper, again a 15 certificate, also at 7:30 p.m. The film tells the true story of German soldier and prisoner of war Bert Trautmann, who, against a backdrop of British post-war protest and prejudice, played for Manchester City as a goalkeeper, a signing which caused outrage among the club's fans, many of them Jewish, but his lover gained support from an unexpected direction. On Thursday, the VAC will screen a live broadcast of musical comedy of One Man, Two Governors, starring James Corden at 7 p.m. The screening of the West End and Broadway hit will mark National Theatre Live's 10th birthday.
Step back 50 years at new festival planned for 2020. Fresh from the success of the $1 Million Bash, which honoured the 1969 Isle of Wight Festival, its organisers, All Wight Now, have announced a new festival for next year. Experience 1970 will be a 2-day event to mark the historic 1970 Isle of Wight Festival, when up to 600,000 music fans watched a stellar lineup, led by headliner Jimi Hendrix, and which included also The Doors, Joan Baez, The Who, Emerson Lake, and Palmer and Donovan. It remains the biggest rock festival the UK has ever seen. Experience 1970 will be held at an island venue, yet to be confirmed, over the weekend of September 5th and 6th. All Wight Now chairman Jonathan Bacon said, "We're delighted to continue our celebrations of the iconic first 3 island festivals with Experience 1970. When our group started 3 years ago, it was with the intention of celebrating the 1970 event, and then of course we realised the 1968 and 69 events had to be honoured too. But the 1970 event was the mammoth event that captured everyone's imagination. We plan to have fantastic acts, including great names who appeared in 1970 and other more contemporary musicians who carry the influences of that great music forward for new generations. It will also be dementia friendly, as was the $1 Million Bash."
And now news of some forthcoming shows at Shanklin Theatre. Starting on Wednesday the 25th of September and Thursday the 26th, when Beyond the West End will be performed, and that's from 8:15 p.m. On Friday the 27th and Saturday the 28th of September, Ben Portsmouth is playing, both those shows starting at 7:30pm. And Tuesday the 1st of October, Albert Lee and his band are playing from 7:30pm. Thursday the 3rd, again Beyond the West End, and again at 8:15pm. Then the Pepperpot Players present Death in High Heels, and that runs from Monday the 7th through to Thursday the 10th, all shows starting at 7:30pm. On Friday the 11th, Beyond the Barricade is performed, again at 7:30pm. Saturday the 12th, Genesis Connected, again at 7:30. Sunday the 13th of October, the Magnificent Music Hall, which starts at 4 o'clock. Tuesday the 15th and Wednesday the 16th of October, we have some performances of Jane Eyre, which is on at 7:30 on both days, with a matinee performance at 2:30 on Wednesday the 16th. On Saturday the 19th, the Barron Knights are playing from 7:30pm. And from Thursday the 24th through to Sunday the 27th, the Island Savoyards present Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. That's again at 7:30pm, with matinees on Saturday 26th and Sunday the 27th at 2:30pm. And you can contact the box office there on 019 83 868 000.
Island sailing talents Liam Catamole and Will Morris did their part in Canada to ensure GB regained the World Blind Fleet Sailing Championships title. For Liam and Will, it was a proud achievement, as he shared in the glory of hoisting the coveted Squadron Cup. The pair were part of 4 GB teams of 4 crew per team, which comprised 2 blind or visually impaired and 2 sighted, up against the United States, France, Japan, Australia, and the host nation, Canada. Using Shark 24 Canadian keel boats, Liam and Will sailed to a very high standard to justify their selection, pitching their seamanship skills against a number of world champion sailors. During the 8-day event at Kingston Yacht Club, Ontario, Will was sighted crew for the B1 team, which performed well despite being faced with challenges out of their control, such as a broken boat, a collision, and a minor head injury to Will, the championship's youngest competitor. Although Will of Whitwell did not win a medal, Liam took silver while he was in the helm for Team B3. Will said, "Words do not describe the feeling being crowned world champions. Massive thanks to everyone who have supported us and made it possible for us to represent GB in Canada and bring home the Squadron Cup." Liam echoed Will's sentiments. He added, "We have seriously had the most amazing life experience, met incredible people, and have developed our sailing skills to another level." Mike Dixon, Commodore of the Cowes Corinthian Yacht Club, of which Will and Liam are members, said was incredibly proud of them. The club prides itself in its record of supporting sailors, whatever their disability, Mr. Dixon said.
And some more sports news now. News that Speedway starter Chris is to marshal in front of 40,000. This is the Isle of Wight Speedway track marshal Chris Cass, who will swap Smallbrook Stadium for the Welsh National Stadium, and this story is by John Marino. The ear-splitting sound of motorbikes revving and the roars of more than 40,000 Speedway fans will greet Islander Chris Cass when he enters the cauldron of Cardiff's Principality Stadium for the penultimate round of the FIM British Grand Prix, the biggest event in the sport. Chris, a familiar face to much fewer Speedway fans, at Smallbrook Stadium for the Isle of Wight Whitelink Warriors and Wizards meetings, was selected from 26 speedway clubs around the country to take on the vital role of starting marshal tomorrow afternoon, that's Saturday afternoon. His high-profile role will be played out in front of a worldwide TV audience and a fanatical and passionate crowd as riders battle it out to become the new world champion. But it takes a no-nonsense character to control the 16 elite riders, all anxious to amass crucial championship points. In Chris, the event organisers have selected the ideal candidate. For a club like the Warriors, it is a coup, with most starting marshals picked from the biggest clubs such as Poole Pirates and the Bellevue Aces from the Speedway GB Premiership. For Chris, being chosen has been likened to a referee in the fourth tier of English football, chosen to officiate in the FA Cup final. So how did the accolade come about? I first got involved with Speedway back in 2012, when the former promoter on the island used me as a meter and greeter to entertain sponsors at meetings, he explained. Then, one evening, the assistant starting marshal had to stand down, so I was asked to help the island's main start marshal, Les Hughes, who sadly passed away last year. So when Speedway was reintroduced in 2016 and Les was unable to continue his start line duties due to knee problems, co-promoters Barry Bishop and Martin Wildman asked if I would step up, and it's gone well ever since. Matchday referees from all over the country have consistently awarded Chris high marks on their match reports, which led to his invitation to officiate in Cardiff. The Speedway Control Bureau's Tony Steele said, "The start marshal is of significant importance to the smooth running of the Grand Prix, and while we tend to rotate the position, his appointment is not simply because it's his turn. It's because Chris is highly regarded as one of the best." Barry Bishop was delighted with Chris's appointment. "What a fantastic honour for Chris and for our club," said Barry. "He's a great choice for the job, and there's no doubt he has the authority and presence to make a real success of the role. It certainly won't be easy in the raucous noise that surrounds the stadium on Grand Prix nights, but Chris will get plenty of help from the organisers." And that's all we have time for this week, so it's goodbye from Stephen.
And goodbye from Jan.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Quote, "Money first, patient second. The damning indictment of an ophthalmologist by a medical tribunal." We'll be looking at the implications of this case in a moment. And the visually impaired British sailors on top of the world again. Eye surgeon Bobby Qureshi has been found guilty of behaviour amounting to misconduct by a medical tribunal. The hearing has been investigating a series of complaints relating to the treatment of age-related macular degeneration, the biggest cause of blindness amongst older people in the UK, while Mr Qureshi was medical director of the private London Eye Hospital, now under different management. The procedure related to the implant of lenses in patients' eyes with the aim of diverting light to the strongest part of the eye. People like Marie Bannister's father.
After a few weeks, it was very evident that something wasn't right, and he returned to the London Eye Hospital and they said that the lens had moved. Eventually, they did another procedure to replace the lens. Once that procedure had been done, my dad developed an infection that went on. The infection became so severe that he was in hospital for a little over 2 weeks because the cornea had become ulcerated.
And how bad was your father's sight at that point?
The left eye was quite bad. His right eye was his stronger eye. And at that stage, he was sort of able to read his newspaper with some help of magnifiers and things, but he was able to read. He led a very, very independent life.
And what was he promised?
For my father, being able to read his newspaper was his main criteria. So the promise was that he would find that much, much easier to manage.
And in the event, what happened?
As a consequence, my father has no vision at all in his right eye now. So the stronger eye has lost everything. The weaker eye, which is the left one, has barely any vision, so that he is virtually blind now. So the consequence has been just catastrophic. You know, for my father, it was going to be an enormous advantage to have a little more sight, and he's had to come to terms with losing the eyesight sort of prematurely, really, because if he'd have just stuck with its perhaps normal decline, he would have had his eyesight for a lot longer.
To what extent do you feel that you and your father had enough information before the procedure took place?
Those sort of things really weren't brought to our attention, the potential for it going wrong. I'm assuming, like most people, we tend to focus on the benefits of the outcome rather than the consequences when things don't go to plan. I could kick myself now, inevitably, and I feel deeply regrettable that we did it, and so sorry for my dad.
Marie Bannister. Well, it's a story which people working at the Macular Society heard many times, making up much of the evidence which they've presented to the medical tribunal. Cathy Yelf is their chief executive. Cathy, first of all, how much evidence did you have?
We had calls from scores of patients over quite a long period of time. Probably more than 50 calls in the end that were very serious in the concerns that they raised with us. We had more with minor concerns, but we had quite a lot of really quite serious concerns. And in the end, we decided that the only way of dealing with this comprehensively was to submit a batch of these cases to the General Medical Council.
What kind of things were people telling you?
In the main, the problem was that they had spent a great deal of money, in some cases as much as £24,000, for lens implants that essentially didn't work. That was the overriding complaint. And then alongside that came out evidence that people had felt that they were subjected to high-pressure sales techniques, so given special offers that were time-limited and things like this. And that they didn't really overall, there was a constant theme that they weren't aware of the risks of this operation, the potential risks.
And I suppose the problem really is the level of hope that people have that this is going to solve their problem, change their lives.
Well, this is the most distressing thing really about this case, is that Mr. Qureshi was taking advantage of people who were quite vulnerable because they were so desperate. To lose your sight is a terrible thing, particularly later in life when you have so much less chance to adapt to the consequences of that. And these people were desperate to retain the sight that they had, and in many cases they were promised that their sight could be improved. So they were quite vulnerable patients, and they were obviously in many cases quite elderly patients as well. So yes, it was a great exploitation of a particularly vulnerable group of particularly desperate people.
Now, there are a variety of forms of macular disease and a range of treatments for them, like drugs injected into the eye, as just one example. Where does the implanting of lenses fit in to this spectrum?
Well, it's all experimental, really, at this stage. So there are quite a few groups around the world who are looking at the potential for special lens implants in the eye to help with macular degeneration. So this wasn't in and of itself anything to cause concern. There are lots of reputable people who are looking at the potential for this, and in fact the Macular Society is about to start funding a small clinical trial into one of these types of lenses. So they are plausible as a solution, at least temporarily, for people with otherwise untreatable macular degeneration. But it's all pretty experimental at this stage, and we don't have a great deal of evidence to say which of these lenses or which particular methodologies for these lenses might prove to be the most useful in the end.
Because obviously what we don't want to do is discourage people from, taking on treatments that might be helpful to them because somebody has abused the level of trust. Can we say how effective is this kind of treatment? What the general range of risk associated with it might be?
Well, the general level of risk isn't much more than an ordinary cataract operation. So cataract operations happen by the million every year, with the natural lens removed and an artificial lens put in its place. And I believe that Mr. Qureshi had a lot of expertise in cataract surgery. So it's plausible that a particular type of lens might be useful. I mean, people use magnifiers, for example, external lenses, to help them see when they have macular degeneration. So there's a plausible idea that an internally implanted lens might be able to do the same thing. And there are lots of different theories as to what is the best approach for this. But we haven't really got anything, that's why we're funding a clinical trial, into one of the most developed of these lenses to find out how useful they actually are. And one of the problems, of course, is how do you predict the outcome for a particular individual? That you have to do simulations and do your best guessing. So it's an imprecise science at the moment.
And presumably the same problem with how you predict the risk. I mean, do we know how to predict the risk?
Well, Mr. Qureshi's lenses were his own invention. I think he'd worked with some other scientists to help develop at least some of his lenses. And as I say, for most of them, if it's a single lens implant that's replacing a natural lens, then the risk level would be pretty much the same as it is with the millions of cataract operations that are done. So, in other words, low. The risk is low. However, some of his lenses were more complicated than that. So one of the lenses that Mr. Qureshi used, the so-called IOL-AMD, was a double lens. It was a sort of a miniature telescope. Now, there are other miniature telescopes on the market as well, but the risk, because they're bigger, they are much bigger than an ordinary single lens implant. You need to make a bigger cut in the eye to get it in. Another lens type was a sort of a foldable one that expanded once it was in the eye. So there are lots of techniques, and overall the risk probably isn't huge. The difficulty was with the patients having complications, or that they simply couldn't benefit from these lenses. That was the main issue. We never, in fact, made any complaint about the lenses Mr. Qureshi was selling themselves. It was the difficulty of them not benefiting the people he sold them to.
And to be clear, the tribunal hasn't found any specific problem with the lens, has it?
I don't think they considered it. I mean, we have had lots of conversations with various experts about how these lenses are supposed to work, the idea that they would direct light onto a healthier part of the retina. And there are mixed views about this. Many people say they don't know how that would work. So we don't know really how useful the lenses would be even in the right people. But there's certainly no use in the wrong people.
Cathy Yelf, Chief Executive of the Macular Society, thank you very much. At the time of recording, the General Medical Council is still deciding what sanctions to impose on Mr. Qureshi. One of its options is to remove him from the medical register. Bobby Qureshi was found by the tribunal to have put money above the welfare of his patients. In his defence, he insisted that he had offered further treatment and compensation to patients who experienced problems. Now, a happier story. The numbers of visually impaired people signing up to blind sailing, we're told, are increasing, which might have something to do with the current performance level of the British sailing team. Well, their good form kept up over the recent Blind Sailing World Championships that were held in Kingston in Ontario, Canada. And Chris Albert was one of the team which retained the World Championships, the Fleet World Championships, and he joins me now. So obviously a very successful few days.
A very successful week, yeah. We went out there with a lot to prove, and I think we've come back and proved that the blind sailing team for GB is really strengthened and continuing to maintain our form.
And just explain, because you won the Fleet World Championship, what does that mean? Presumably there are quite a lot of boats involved.
There are a number of boats on the circuit. We have 3 fleets. There's a B1 fleet, which is the vision level where you can only get light perception, and the B2 fleet, and the B3 fleet, which is the last fleet that's allowed to compete internationally, which is what I'm in. So I've got slightly more sight than the B2 fleet.
How did your B3s get on specifically then?
The B3s, we competed neck and neck with Canada for the first 5 days on their home turf, with their knowledge of the area, and with a boat that's only sailed in Canada, so we had no previous knowledge of the boat, and to level peg them all the way through for 5 days. And then to lose it on one particular day was absolutely gutting. But speaking to their coach afterwards, we couldn't have done any more. He said you were sailing the best you could possibly sail with the knowledge you had of the area.
Is that mainly knowledge of the wind and stuff like that?
It was more the wind, yeah, because the wind shifts in cyclical mode, and they managed to pick the right area of the cycle to just get ahead of us and just manage to maintain that lead for that day.
So, Chris, for those who don't know, how does blind sailing actually work?
Okay, so we have a 4-man crew. 2 of the crew are visually impaired, and their positions on the boat are the main sheeter, which is what I do, so I control the big mainsail and keep the boat flat and powered up, and then the helm, so the person steering the boat is also the same sight impairment. So it's quite difficult. The other 2 on the boat are both sighted. One is allowed to use the foresail and maintain the foresail and help balance the boat, and the 4th person is a tactician. They're not allowed to touch any controls on the boat. They're purely there to paint the picture of what's going on and to talk the tactics to us and say how we're going to compete the next leg of this race.
So for things like steering, how does that work?
It's difficult to see with the different fleets. The B1s, I've sailed with some B1s, have got no vision at all, and you use your ears a lot to feel the wind direction and feel where the boat's going, and it's your stance in the boat to feel how much the boat's heeling.
I mean, are you using any technology for steering? Is it radar?
We're not allowed to use technology. It is purely the tactician painting the picture and telling us what we need to do. They can see the wind shifts on the water, the dark patches on the water. They will try and steer us towards those to gain the advantage. So it is quite a sighted game, but they're only allowed to paint the picture for us. We have to then interpret that and use that.
And I gather there are things that you have to do because I think you're all quite, the boats, your competitors, you're all quite close together, so they might hear what's going on.
We're very close together, and the Canadians did tell us afterwards that we're quite a loud team in my boat. We're very vocal, we're very passionate about what we do, but our reaction time is brilliant because the minute something's said, it's already happening. So you need that bit of a trigger in the communication, but you've got to try not to give away too much information to the other boat on what you're planning to do and when you're going to execute that move.
And why are there different sight categories in blind sailing? Do you have different modifications or rules?
The rules are exactly the same for all 3 fleets. All it's about really is having a level playing field for people with the same impairment competing against each other. You don't want to have the advantage of somebody with a little bit more sight over somebody else, and to that end we all have to get sight classified before we leave the UK, and then you get reclassified when you get to the actual event, so they're checking that nobody's cheating and getting into categories they shouldn't get into. So it's quite an intense first day, making sure your team is going to get through the testing.
So how did you get into it, blind sailing?
I got into it absolutely by chance. I ski every year with a guy who works for the Department of Working Pensions. He's got sight only in one eye and is hearing impaired. And I skied with him for years. And then one day, Lucy Hodges, who is the Commodore of blind sailing, sent a flyer out to other government agencies saying, look, we're looking for some more blind sailors. Is anybody interested? He said to me, do you fancy coming along to Windermere for a taster weekend? We went over there. It was an absolutely glorious weekend. It was T-shirt and shorts sailing all weekend. And I absolutely loved it, and I just keep going back.
What is it about it that you love?
For me, it's a replacement for not being able to drive, because I had to stop driving over 12 years ago. And until you have to lose something like that, you don't realise how much adrenaline you get from making the decisions, controlling the power, having the freedom to go and do what you want, when you want. And sailing gives that back to me. I've got all this power in my control, and it's up to me how I do it, how I use it, and to make those decisions.
And I mean, I think when you lost your sight, it was fairly traumatic, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very traumatic. I was working for an aerospace company at the time. I was just about to get delivered my first ever brand new company car. It was being delivered that week, and I had to make the decision. Nobody makes the decision for you. I had to make the decision and say, I can no longer drive. I can still do the job, but I can no longer drive. But within 24 hours, I was made redundant. I had a really strong case. I had a solicitor lined up. My sister funded the solicitor, but it sucked so much energy out of me losing that job, and it became the only focus in my life, and that wasn't me. So I dropped the case, I went off, and I just went self-employed and did my own thing and carried on in engineering, proved to myself that I could still do that role. The visual impairment wasn't such a major impact as the company had foreseen it as.
But clearly the sailing has been a major thing in your life.
Yeah, the sailing came along at just the right time for me, both in the losing the job and later in a divorce stage. It just sucks me in, takes me away from it, gives me that to focus on and nothing else. And I think that's what helps drive us all, really, that we've got such a passion that pulls the team together, and we're all there to help each other. We've all been through similar circumstances, so we all work together and just support each other.
And team from all over the UK?
The team is spread all over the UK. In my boat in particular, there's 4 of us. One is from the Isle of Wight, one is from the Gloucester area, one is from Windermere, and I'm from the North East. So we're spread far and wide. We all do our own sailing week on week with our own local clubs, but we come together once a month at one of the venues, either Windermere, Isle of Wight, Hollingworth Lake near Manchester, or wherever we can get together, really.
And just one final thing, retain the World Championship. Why are we so good?
I think it's the passion of our Commodore, Lucy Hodges. She gets us together as much as she can. She pulls the venues together, and we run on volunteers. The sighted guys are volunteers. They are not paid at all. So it's the commitment of them to help us move forward, retain what we've got, and improve the people coming through. And part of my job is I work in the education service for people who are visually impaired. And part of my role has sort of developed into finding things that these kids can move on to give them the drive and passion to say, look, you're not limited in what you can do. Here's something we do. It's slightly different to how anybody else does it, but look at what you can achieve.
Chris Albert, many congratulations and many thanks.
Thank you very much, Peter.
And that's it for today. Do let us hear your reactions to that and also our other story today. You can call to leave us a voice message on 0161 836 1338. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk or go to our website bbc/in touch, where you can also download tonight's and previous editions of the programme. From me, Peter Wight, producer Lee Kumitat and the team, goodbye.
This is the scaffolding news for Friday, the 20th of September 2019. First of all, the Cowes area. The current scaffolds are up on Cameo's Bath Road, Cowes, Princess Building, Bath Road, Cowes, Regency House 42 High Street, Cowes, 56 and 56B High Street, Cowes, and current skips are in 42 Barn Road, East Cowes.
Newport area. Current scaffolds: Age UK 114A Pyle Street, Newport, 113 Pyle Street, Trespass 44 High Street, Newport, 34 C Street, Newport, and 109 Carisbrooke Road, Newport. Pending scaffolds: 4 St James's Street, Newport, Phones for You 50 High Street, Newport, and 17 C Street, Newport.
And the Ryde area, current scaffolds are 35 to 36 High Street, Ryde, flats 31 to 36 Marymead Close, Ryde, Boots 170 High Street, Ryde, 41A and 41B Osborne Road, Ryde, the Olivo Restaurant 3233 Union Street, Ryde, 6 Anglesey Street, Ryde, 138 to 39 High Street, Ryde, 79 Park Road, scaffold in Player Street, Ryde. Continuing for Ryde, 16A Warwick Street, Ryde, and pending scaffolds at 9 High Street, Brading, pending Cherry Picker, 10 Pell Lane, Ryde, and current skips are at 28 Marlborough Road, Ryde, 42 Foreland Road, Bembridge, and 14 Race Street, Ryde.
Sandown and Shanklin area. Current scaffolds: 42 Fitzroy Street, Sandown, Sandown Saver Centre, Albert Road, Sandown, and 10 Melville Street, Sandown. Pending Cherry Picker, junction of Town Lane and York Road, Sandown. Current hoardings: Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade Sandown, Current Mobile Crane, Premier Inn 1 to 9 Esplanade Sandown, Current Skips, Shankling Towers, Prospect Road, Shanklin, and Current Building Materials on the highway opposite to Ashy View Lake.
And in the Ventnor area, current scaffolds are the corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor, Chiverton's Fish Shop, 70 High Street, Ventnor, and current skips are 16 South Street, Ventnor. There's a pending cherry picker at the junction of Zigzag Road and Ocean View Road in Vintner.
In the West Wight area, current scaffolds, Hursts, 9 School Green Road, Freshwater, current skip, Runnymede, Queens Road, Freshwater, and vehicle crossings under construction, 10 Palmer's Road, Wootton, 8 Donington Drive, Shanklin, Old School Place, Cockleton Lane, Gurnard, 27 Albert Road, Shanklin, 56 Lower Furlongs, Brading, 4 Swanage Terrace, Moons Hill, Totland, 4 The Fairway Lake, Brickfields Cottage, Newnham Road, Ryde, 8 Pritchards Way, Rookley, and 7 Wroxall Close, Northwood.